Welcome to the Friday vlog.
Welcome to the Friday vlog.
Today we thought we would talk about the role that thought plays in emotional suffering.
It's a good one.
And I'll give you some context for what
Okay.
I'm thinking. So I'm thinking about a situation where a couple might get into an argument and the argument is left unresolved, that there's distance, there's perhaps hurt feelings, there's ill will. And often when things are in that space, we feel hurt inside. There's emotional suffering. And I know that in the past, we would get ourselves into trouble. And I know that couples that we work with also talk about this.
We would get our knickers in a twist.
Well, we would have our knickers in a twist. But then, rather than waiting for them to get untwisted, we would sort of rush the process of trying to work things out. You look like you're having
in effect, turning those knickers into a tourniquet.
Okay, I think you run with the knicker
The
metaphor.
worst kind of wedgie imaginable.
Can I get back on
Yes,
track?
of course.
Okay, so because of the emotional discomfort of the distance in the relationship, of the not getting along, what we would do in the past is that we would sort of rush to try and work things out. Or in my recollection, you would tend to be more of the rusher to try and work things out. I would tend to be more of the digger in of my heels and be like, no, I'm moody and I don't want to work things out. But you would be doing that because you didn't like the feelings inside of yourself. And so you would sort of try to move things along and get back to goodwill rather than giving each of us the time to settle so that we could come back together in a more productive way.
Yeah, and it was a really difficult dynamic because in a sense, your ego in the face of me trying to rush things along would become more and more defiant, which would really drive me crazy. And I think actually, and I've spoken about this before, if I'm to be completely transparent about my motives in that situation, it was more a case of this person is corrupting my well-being and I need to get them back on an even keel as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So I can be in a place of peace.
Yeah.
And
No,
harmony.
I knew that all along. I knew it wasn't about me.
So it's even worse.
What
That
is?
defiance comes with an edge.
I wasn't purposely being defiant. It would just irk me that
Right.
you wouldn't give me my space that I needed.
Yeah, no, it was a fool's errand on my part. I can see that now.
But I'm sure I'm guilty of it as well. I'm
Yes,
sure
you have a role to play.
it's run both ways. But what we wanted to look at is how we don't need to rush things when we're in emotional suffering to try and get rid of the suffering, because typically that doesn't work. At least in our experience, it doesn't work, because the nature of suffering is to settle, because the nature of the mind is to settle. So if we're willing to just allow ourselves to be with our feelings, we can allow the feelings to move through us, come back to a more settled space within ourselves, and then most likely be much more productive at working things out with our partner from that settled state of mind.
Yeah, and I guess for us, lucky that we have enough reference points in that experience, excuse me, to realize that that's the best approach. But up until having all those reference points, it would feel counterintuitive to not rush in and try and fix things as quickly as possible. It doesn't seem to make sense, I think, to our ego that we should just leave it alone. The ego doesn't know anything else other than let's fix this quickly, because the ego's got that ticking clock.
Yeah, well,
Are we going to fix this? How soon are we going to fix this?
Yeah.
So I think everything about our human experience, probably up until that point, was like, let's fix and resolve this as quickly as possible to avoid suffering. And that's where it feels counterintuitive.
Yeah. But when we understand that the suffering is naturally going to settle, then it makes sense to wait and leave it alone, because actually the suffering tends to settle a whole lot more quickly when we do leave it alone.
Yeah.
And I have a very visceral reference point for this that happened last night. So I have this fitness ring that I wear called an Oura ring. I know you're making fun of that name earlier.
Because I used to think she used to refer to this ring as an ooh-ah. An ooh-ah ring. It's actually Oura.
Oura, an Oura ring. Anyway, I got a notification that the battery was low last night before going to bed, so I plugged the ring in, and it was next to the bed on the floor when I plugged it in, and then I fell asleep. So I remembered in the middle of the night that I had plugged the ring in, and I also remembered that the last time I had plugged the ring in and forgotten about it, when I took the ring off the charger, it was really warm.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So what is the purpose of this ring?
It's a fitness tracker.
But it tracks your sleep.
It tracks fitness, like steps and sleep.
So it's kind of ironic that probably on some level you were worried about the ring not charging properly, and it was probably disturbing your sleep.
No, it wasn't disturbing my sleep.
It wasn't?
No, I just happened to wake
just
up.
randomly woke up.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was on your mind.
No, it wasn't on my mind.
Okay, just thought I would ask.
Okay.
Sorry,
It was
carry on.
Not to my awareness.
Okay.
But I did wake up and happened to remember that I left the ring in, and that the last time I'd done that, it was hot when I picked it up, and I thought, well, that can't be good to leave it charging for a long time.
Probably not.
So I thought, oh, I better get the ring. So as I'm fumbling around in the dark in my sort of sleepy state, I hit the side of my head really hard on the side of the bedside table. You can see the lump.
Yeah.
So I did that. I did manage to get the ring, but it was excruciating. It really hurt because it's kind of like the soft part
right
of
on
the
the
temple. So anyway, I have this splitting pain in my head, and I can feel the lump growing. But I wanted to get back to sleep because it was the middle of the night and I didn't want to not sleep. I knew it was a good thing. So I recognized that if I focused on this pain, that I wasn't going to get back to sleep. So because I really wanted to get back to sleep, it just made sense for me to be with the pain, allow it to do what it was doing, let the lump grow as it was going to. I thought about getting some ice, and I thought, oh, I can't get out of bed and get some ice for it. So I just left it alone, and I went straight back to sleep. And even this morning, my head is still hurting, so it wasn't like the pain completely went away. But could see how if I had focused on it, it would have just amplified the whole experience. The pain would have even been more excruciating, and I wouldn't have got back to sleep. And so for me, that example works for physical pain, but it also works for emotional pain too. If I'm thinking about my emotional suffering, if I'm focusing on it, if I'm needing it to go, if I'm wanting it to be different, if I, feel like I can't be okay with this kind of pain that I'm experiencing, then it's going to amplify it and make it so much harder to navigate.
That's amazing. What an amazing teaching moment that that experience provided. Yeah. I think I'm going to have to go to Home Depot and get some baby bumpers to put on the corner of your bedside table.
It's never happened to me before, and I won't charge the ring on the floor in future.
That must have been so painful.
Yeah, so we hope that you can see that the natural state of suffering is to settle as the mind settles, that we don't need to make it go away, that we can actually have the space to be with it in a kind, loving way, allow it to move through us, and that actually is a much more graceful experience than trying to get in there and fix it. And when it comes to relationships and discord, it's often so beneficial to just simply allow the space for each person to settle and to then come back and see what needs to get worked out.
Because when the mind settles, perspective returns. When the what is it? The mind quiets. What is it that saying, that Buddhist saying? When the mind quiets, the soul speaks. Exactly. So I think we allow ourselves to settle, and then wisdom returns exponentially. The more settled we get, the more access we have to our intuition and our insight, and hopefully come up with some sort of meaningful solution.
Yeah. So if you ever find yourself feeling compelled to work things out from a reactive state, maybe it'll be helpful to remember that your emotions are going to settle naturally, and to see and experience that and see what happens as a result of that when you wait.
Sounds like a good plan to me.
Well, have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.